Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun and exciting video for you guys today, and one that a lot of people have been asking about. That is because maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I did a video on N64 Recomp Launcher, and basically called it your one-stop shop for every single recomp and PC source port that's been made to date. But honestly, the overall plan for the application changed a bit. The name has changed, and a lot of people seem to think that it's no longer in development. That couldn't be any further from the truth. Honestly, it basically just expanded well beyond N64 Recomps to be an all-encompassing tool to help you find basically every single project out there today. And honestly, decomps, recomps, and PC ports in 2026 are absolutely riding a massive wave of progress, and keeping up with all of them can be difficult even if I make videos on them. And honestly, keeping up with all the news is a full-time job even for me, so I can't imagine what it's like out there if people aren't sending you links and bringing information all the time. I'm going to be going over the new GitHub Launcher, explaining exactly how it works, how you can interact with it, and how you can basically make it so that you can play every single recomp and PC port that exists moving forward in the future. And you will see here, based upon the GitHub page again, the name has completely changed from N64 Recomp Launcher to GitHub Launcher, which makes sense because now it has recomps for Xbox 360, PlayStation and PlayStation 2, and a bunch of other platforms out there. So basically, if you've seen me talk about this on the channel, any particular game, you're going to find it in GitHub Launcher, and it's going to be a very easy setup process. And it seems like some of the N64 Recomp developers continually ask for the name to be changed, and honestly, if you know what's going on in the background, really not surprised by that one. But if I keep calling it the N64 Recomp Launcher in the video, it is because that's the name that it went for in the past. But honestly, this application is perfection because it's going to give you a curated list of every single game out there. It's going to link to the GitHub repo, and you're going to be able to click the download button, and it's going to add every single thing into the launcher and set it up for you to play. The only thing you need to do is give it the game files, because of course it's not going to download those for you. And it's one of those things, they're pretty easy to find, and I'm sure you legally own every single one of them you're going to play. But this piece of software really is going to take care of everything for you, and that again is something that I've just noticed. A lot of people have trouble finding these things, and I hope this application continues to be developed because it really is the gold standard when it comes to making these things easier and more accessible for everyone to find. If you go over to the releases tab, the most recent version is version 1.72, and that has basically every single recomp and port I've talked about up until about 48 hours ago, including Snowboard Kids 2. I'm not sure when I'm going to air this, but it's one of those things that just came out and this already had it. So when you do want to set up the GitHub Launcher, you can go ahead and unpack the zip file into whatever folder you want the application to live in. It doesn't install into your program files, it is kind of just portable. But once you actually set a folder, you don't want to move it around too much because it's going to have paths to all of the folders it creates when it installs things. So just make sure you kind of Ranpo peel this thing and set it and forget it, Ranko rotisserie style. If you're not old enough to remember that, then I'm sure you can look it up and you'll have a fun time with it. So when you run it the first time, it'll automatically update itself, and it'll update itself every single time from there. And you'll see here when you first launch it, it'll say that there's no apps added. If you go to the app catalog, you'll see every single recomp and PC port that I've talked about on the channel, and a bunch I haven't. And if you want to add them to your database, you just go ahead and hit the add button, and that will bring them in. From there, we'll go through the download process of actually getting them set up to run. But this is going to be the curated list of everything broken out into different categories. So something like the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess Dusklight we've been talking about a lot, or even the Animal Crossing PC port Crash Team Racing, which I talked about only 2 days ago as the recording of this audio. They are all in here, and this basically has every single port and recomp within 24 hours. So as long as you refresh this thing like once a week, you will have every single bit of content out there. And again, I like that you have to add them manually. That way your library is curated just with things you want to play. And if you played something and don't plan on coming back to it, you can remove it from the library so that you only see things in front of you that you haven't actually had a chance to experience yet. And I would say the UI here is absolutely 10 out of 10 amazing. It just works and it looks really good, especially if you maximize it into full screen. And stuff like Ghost Ship that we just recently talked about as well, it's here, it's ready, and it's our first soundtrack sample. So go ahead and listen, I'll be right back with a bit more. So the reason I had you listen to Ghost Ship there isn't just because I wanted to take a break and let you listen to Mario music, although that was important. It is to talk about the fact that a lot of false positives are going to be hit by Windows Defender on this application and pretty much every GitHub repo out there with these projects. And I can assure you they are false positives and Windows Defender is absolutely brain dead. But it's a comment I see a lot of times on these videos where people ask about it, just how these applications work. They get false flagged all the time, so don't worry about it. If you see it on this application, it is perfectly fine. Now you will see here every single game that I added to the library for this demonstration is ready to be installed, and if you see a blue arrow, go ahead and click that and it'll download the most recent build. Sometimes when you click it there's going to be more than one option, just go ahead and pick recommended, and you'll see here if there's a Linux build or a Windows build, you're going to have those because this application works for Macintosh, for Linux, and for Windows. So as long as there is a recomp build for your operating system, you will be perfectly fine. From there, all you need to do is give it the game files, and of course I can't teach you how to give it every single one because they're going to be different, but it does link back to the GitHub repos as well, so you can read the directions from each independent developer and go ahead and set things up, because sometimes all you need to do is give it the N64 ROM file from your legally owned cartridge. Sometimes you give it disk images, and sometimes you have to unpack those disk images and add particular files. So for every single game you want to play, you do have to go over the directions for those, because again, this is not a standardized procedure. Every single recomp and PC port does things differently, so make sure you do pay attention to that. And you can always ask me in the comments as well, or join my Discord if you need help with it, because a lot of people are willing to help you get things set up there, so long as you ask politely. But honestly, it's just so amazing how many recomps and PC ports we're getting in 2026, and I know there's a bunch more on the way. I have a couple of videos that I have made and not yet shown yet because developers are still kind of just waiting to release the repo. Trust me, there's going to be a lot of fun and exciting things in 2026 coming. So having an application like the Recomp Launcher 100% helps, because it just allows you to stop thinking about where to find things and start thinking about what it is you want to play. And you will see here by default you can enable the gamepad input for this application, so you don't actually have to use mouse and keyboard. You can change your installation path, but I do recommend that you just leave that stock. It'll take care of everything for you, and don't change it once you actually play around with it, or you're going to break some of the connections. You can also start it in full screen. You can have rounded or actual edge corners, a very minor thing that actually makes it look that much prettier. You can basically configure this application to do whatever you want, including changing the colors. So you can do this thing almost like Steam Big Picture mode, where you just sit on your couch, have the application maximize, use a controller, and play around with everything from there. And I think my favorite thing about this application, other than the fact that it streamlines absolutely everything, is just how pretty it is. You can even set background music for whatever you want. That way when you hit maximize and grab a controller, it really is a very curated experience, and it kind of feels like a professional application you would have traded money for, but it is 100% free. But let's go into the next soundtrack sample, just because there's no way in hell you're getting out of this video without hearing some Bomberman Hero music. 10 out of 10 soundtrack, one of the best in gaming, so go ahead and listen, and I'll be right back with a little bit more information. See, I know it tripped up a lot of people when N64 Recomp Launcher basically quote-unquote disappeared, but that's because it changed the name to GitHub Launcher. It updated a lot of features around the edges and brought in a lot more recomps and PC ports, so trust me, if you're even remotely interested in playing all of the different versions of these games I show you on the channel, you absolutely want to have this application, because not only does it streamline everything on the installation process and basically getting the game set up and running, it doesn't require you to have dozens upon dozens of folders for different recomps and ports on your system, because it's going to categorize all of it for you. And considering it has a big screen mode, it has background music if you want, you can change the colors and use a controller. It really basically feels almost like a console in and of itself, except it's your PC and is playing all of these different games. And considering decomps, recomps, and PC ports are just going to keep coming fast and furious, and there's a bunch of other ones in development, this is going to keep that collection curated and show you what's new every single time you load it up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. But you tell me, have you been using GitHub Launcher, and did you realize it switched over from N64 Recomp Launcher to GitHub Launcher? But short of that, we're done. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.